Where you hold your assets is almost as important as what assets you actually invest in. So I'm talking here about tax-deferred and tax-protected accounts, investment accounts that you can be investing in. So what the bleep are those? So in day-to-day lingo, the first one, let's talk about tax-deferred. Tax-deferred, things called pensions, retirement investments. So that could be a 401k, an IRA, a superannuation if you're in Australia, a retirement annuity. Essentially, tax-deferred is where governments around the world know that they cannot actually afford you in your old age. They cannot support you. That is just the reality in any kind of social service structure. So they want to incentivize you to put some money aside so that you can support yourself when you're no longer working. And so they give you an allowance and an incentive that you can put some of your actively earned income now into this pot or this account, tax deferred. So it means that you earn income, and whatever you put into this account and invest, you won't pay income tax on in the current time of when you're earning it. So hence tax deferred. So it goes into this retirement, this pension account, the superannuation, all these different names, they all mean exactly the same thing. And then you can invest in assets inside of that pot. We're going to come back to what should you be investing in, because most people just have really crappy ingredients inside their tax-deferred pot, and then they blame the pot and they go, oh, my pension, my 401k, my IRA, my retirement annuity, my superannuation, it's horrid, it's crap. No, the account's not crap. It's just a pot. What you're choosing to invest in might be really dodgy. Some kind of TV dinner investment that maybe your financial advisor or you've been sold in there. So first important thing to understand is this pot is tax deferred. So money goes in, you get a tax benefit now. So it means more of your money goes in and can get working for you instead of going to the tax man. But even better still, any investments that you have inside of that pot, as they grow, so remember assets grow in two forms. They kick off income, so they can give you yield income, and they grow in value, called capital growth. So any income and capital growth of the assets that are invested in this tax deferred pot also grow free of tax. So compounding has more to work on. So instead of having to pay a little bit of tax on every bit of capital gain that happens on those assets or income that comes off them, that money can get reinvested, it can earn more money, get reinvested, and so your growth inside of this account, this tax deferred pot, is greater than if you were invested in the same assets outside of that which wasn't tax protected. And then when you hit a certain age, you can access that and you can start feeding off the proceeds of the assets in here. And at that point, you start paying tax on your drawdown, hence tax deferred. It's not tax free, you just pay tax later on. But the benefit of that is tax benefit now, reduction in that, and your assets grow free of tax. Retirement, pension, superannuation, 401k, IRA, tax deferred. Juicy, juicy pot. But now in some countries, unfortunately not all, but you might find in your country you do have, is a tax-free or a tax-protected account. So now this is, for example, something called an ISA, an individual savings account in the UK, a tax-free savings account in Canada, in Japan, in South Africa, a Roth in the US. What this is another kind of investment account that the governments have also used to incentivize people to invest, and post-tax money comes in here, not pre-tax, which in this one. So it's post-tax money goes into this. But as soon as you invest into anything inside this pot, again, it grows free of income tax and capital gains tax. Super juicy. So your assets earn more for you because they're not being pilfered. That little bit of tax and costs that go off don't go off in this account. They stay in, so more money ends up working for you. And so those assets work harder and we get a higher return of any assets invested inside of this pot. Now, individual savings account, tax-free savings accounts are some of the most misunderstood accounts accounts that you have available to you, because so many people look at the name, and I sometimes think the financial industry does this just to confuse people. People go savings account, so they think it's a bank account where you earn interest, and unfortunately you can go and get an ISA or a tax-free savings account from a bank and shove some cash in it, and that's devastating because you've got this amazing opportunity to really have assets working for you, and yet most people end up having it as a savings account where they've just got cash sitting in there earning a measly little interest, and so the benefit of that account isn't being fully utilized. So you do not want a cash ISA, a cash tax-free savings account. You want it to be an investment account where you're investing in index trackers, where you've got stocks and shares. You can even have property shares inside both of these pots. That's what's so cool. And so your ISA and your tax-free savings account, your Roth, this tax-protected account, is then once everything just keeps growing and you keep using your annual allowance to go in, and you always want to max out your annual allowance that you can put into this pot, super juicy. Once you start feeding off it, the real juicy part of this starts coming out, because now when you feed off it, because you've already paid tax when the money went in, you do not pay tax when you now start feeding off the proceeds of that. So really sexy. Tax deferred, you're going to pay tax on your retirement, your pension, your 401k, your superannuation as you start feeding off it. Out of your tax protected account, your ISA, your Roth, your tax-free savings account, no tax. So as you start creating your wealth, you want to be using both, because this is going to make a real big difference of how you manage your tax down the line when you're feeding off these two key pots where you're going to hold your assets. And then of course there is a third pot, which I haven't bothered putting out here, because that's just your discretionary investments. So these are where you invest outside of any tax protected mechanism. And on discretionary investments, absolutely you're going to have that, because you're going to need to have that, but you need to know that you'll be paying tax on income and capital growth of those assets. So you always want to max out your allowances of these two accounts first to get most of your money working hard for you. So there we go. It's as important to where you invest, as in the kinds of accounts, as to what assets go in. And so then inside these accounts, what should you be investing in? Index trackers. And remember, in terms of index trackers, that is investing in bundled funds, of low-cost funds, in stocks and shares of great companies around the world, but you can also be investing through the mechanism of index trackers in real estate, through real estate investment trusts. So you can own property, you can own commodities, you can own physical gold. So in these two accounts, you can have a beautifully well-diversified portfolio that is serving your needs. So hope that mini masterclass on the different kinds of accounts really has helped clarify for you where and what they're about and why they're so sexy and what is the benefit of each. So I'm Ann Wilson, and if you're watching this anywhere than over at thewealthchef.com, head on over there, and I would love to know in the comments below, which of these do you have? Do you have a tax deferred? Do you have some kind of pension, superannuation, 401k, retirement funding account? If so, do you even know what assets are inside it? How is it investing? Do you know the costs? Are you maxing out your allowances to put into that? And if you're in a country where you have access to a tax-free account, like a tax-free savings account, an ISA, a Roth, are you using it? And if you have a cash one, hopefully now you know, get the hell out of cash, transfer it into a stocks and shares ISA or a tax-free investment account on a platform where you can utilize this allowance in this account, but have proper assets in it, not just cash. And remember, it's the quality of your assets, not the quantity, that is going to create your freedom. And your assets create your freedom, not you. So you need to get those assets working hard for you.